Okay guys, and now in this final video, we can finally interpret the chart based on everything that we've learned. So we'll start with the two important angles, the ascendant and the midheaven. Here we have the ascendant at 11 degrees of Libra, and the ascendant represents how someone views the world. It is tied to their identity and sense of self. And in the sign of Libra, this could be someone with a very balanced approach to life and a very harmonious mindset in general. And we do see that we have Jupiter here at 8 degrees Libra, closely conjunct the ascendant. This would lend a very positive outlook to this person. However, it would be difficult for them to hide themselves in the background because they have a very strong identity. Jupiter amplifies things, so there would be no way for this person to hide. And then for the midheaven, we have Cancer, and we see that we have the planet Saturn sitting here in the 10th house. And this can be an extremely favorable position for Saturn because Saturn is the natural ruling planet of the 10th house. It's associated with the sign Capricorn, which is the 10th sign. So essentially, we have the planet which rules hard work and sustained effort, and it is sitting in the house of social status and achievement. So Saturn likes being here, and this can even propel someone to rise to the top of their chosen field if and only if they're able to overcome all of the obstacles associated with Saturn, but it can still be very fortunate. And next, we can look and scan the chart to see if we find any clusters of planets. And in this case, we really just have mostly spaced out planets. We do have a small cluster here with Venus and the Sun and Mercury right over here. So we do have 3 planets altogether in Gemini in the 9th house, but it's not that significant. Sometimes you'll find 5 or more planets all in the same sign or same house, and that creates a huge focus on that area of the chart. Next, we can look at the aspects. So we see that we have some trines from the Sun and Mercury to Jupiter. These lines are trines, and then we also have trines from the Sun and Mercury to Neptune. And finally, we have a third trine from Neptune to Jupiter. And you see that looks like a triangular shape there. That is known as a grand trine, and it is extremely fortunate. That is a flowing aspect. So these planets and their actions are all in agreement with one another, and they are working together towards harmonious goals. There is no conflict and no tension here. But we also notice we have Mars here, which is receiving 2 squares, and squares are the most challenging aspect. So Mars is being squared by Venus and also by Pluto. And finally, we see that Pluto and Venus themselves are 180 degrees apart, so we have an opposition between them. This aspect is what is known as a T-square. And the planet Mars, in this case, which is receiving both of the squares, is known as the apex of the T-square. And that planet is the planet that is responsible for handling the stress of the configuration. So all the energy gets channeled in this case into Mars. And then it's Mars's responsibility to act, and it will do so in the realm of the 6th house because we see that we have Mars in the 6th. So those are the aspects which stand out. And we do always want to pay attention to planets that are heavily aspected because the more aspects that a planet has, the greater its activity and involvement in your chart. But after that, we want to look at the different house rulerships and see how everything is relating together. So let's notice a couple of things. The first is that we have the ruler of the 10th house, which relates to the career, in the 6th house because the 10th house sign is Cancer and is ruled by the moon. And here we find the moon in the 6th house in the fiery sign of Aries. So somehow the 6th house of work, service, and health is related to the 10th house of career. And this person's emotions are utilized on a daily basis in the 6th house of work. And this person has passionate emotions related to what they are doing because the moon in a fire sign shows that this person is extremely passionate. And they also have The ruler of the fourth house, which is the family, and that is in the sign of Capricorn, so its ruling planet is Saturn. The ruler of the fourth house is in the 10th house here. So this means that somehow the theme of the family is related to the career. Now, this could be that someone had some early childhood experiences with their family that somehow impacted the career decisions that they made when they were older. It could mean it could actually be related to their family when they are in a later age and already are working on establishing a career. Maybe they had to make some kind of change in their career trajectory based on the family. It could mean either of those things, but somehow we have the career related to work and service, and then we have the family related to the career. And now, if we look at the sign of the 10th house being Cancer, that itself is the sign which is related to family and caretaking. So, this is interesting. And then, what we can notice also about this chart is that Chiron, the wounded healer, is in the fourth house. So, this person's greatest wounds in life relate to the family. There was something about the family. And in the sign of Aquarius, there may have been something unusual about a family member or the dynamics of their family that somehow had an impact on this person, and that served as their greatest wound. That is significant to notice. And we also see a couple of other things worth pointing out. The North Node here is in the 7th house, and the North Node is the person's destiny. And the 7th house relates to others, relationships with other people. And this just lends greater influence now to the ascendant being in Libra, because that will make the person naturally focused on relationships with others to begin with. So there's some sort of focus on others. However, the 7th house ruler, the 7th house being in Aries, is Mars, and we find that in the 6th house. So again, there's a relationship back to the 6th house, and this time it's the 7th house ruler, which means that if this person is working one-on-one with other people, they could be doing something to provide some sort of service, perhaps related to health, because the 6th house rules health. And with the moon there as well in a Cancer midheaven, this could easily be a nurse, because this could be someone who provides some sort of caretaking on a daily basis, maybe one-on-one. And there's further evidence for this because the chart ruler, the ascendant being Libra, is Venus, since Venus rules Libra. So the chart ruler, Venus, is over here. It is in the 9th house. And the 9th house rules higher education. So this person's sense of identity, right, their ascendant, is tied into themes of the 9th house. And perhaps obtaining a degree, which is higher education, perhaps obtaining some sort of degree like a nursing degree, had a big impact on this person's sense of identity. And you have the sun, the conscious self, there too. So this could easily indicate someone who has a degree in nursing, and then with the moon in the 6th house here, ruling the 10th house, is a caretaker for other people on a one-on-one basis, on a daily basis. This could also, however, be someone who is extremely into health and fitness, especially with Mars in the 6th house, because the 6th house doesn't just rule health and health problems, it rules fitness and athletics and competition. In fact, anything related to competition or disputes falls under the territory of the 6th house because it's a house that relates to obstacles. And in sports, an example of an obstacle would be other people who you have to defeat. So with Mars in the 6th house, this person can have a focus on their own health and fitness, and perhaps because the 7th ruler is in the 6th house, they may be a personal trainer. They may work one-on-one with other people to help them reach their fitness goals. That is another possibility here. And again, so the 6th house handling conflicts in general, this could make this person some sort of attorney as well. Perhaps with the Libra ascendant, there's a strong sense of justice and being a very diplomatic person and able to weigh both sides of any issue. There could be some sort of interest in the legal system here because the 6th house relates to the legal system. So the career could be tied in, and maybe with the midheaven being in Cancer and the moon being present in the 6th house, This could be someone who works as a divorce attorney. It could be that their parents, over here with Chiron in the fourth house, their parents got divorced at some point and it had a strong impact on this person's life and it affected them deeply. And as a result, they help other people get divorced without creating the same types of traumas that the person had to experience, if that makes sense. That would be the best way to explain that. And with Saturn here, this person could do very well in their career. I know that we mentioned that part already, but all of these are possibilities, and there's no one answer. I do want to emphasize this. When you're looking at a chart, you will never see definitively what is happening in a person's life. You will only see possibilities and probabilities. So, based on everything that we put together, we know that there are strong relationships between the 10th house and the 7th house and the 6th house. They are both relating back to the 6th house. Then there is a relationship from the 4th house to the 10th house. And all of this is emphasized, and we are doing our best to tie together the bigger picture of how these things could relate to the person and their experiences. But yeah, another thing worth noting as far as the moon in the 6th house is that a lot of prominent athletes who achieve the highest status in their respective sports do have a moon in the 6th house, and specifically they have it in a fire sign like Aries or Sagittarius. So that is not far-fetched at all for this individual to be an athlete of some sort, or at the very least, a personal trainer, or even if they're not a personal trainer, with their emotional state tied into their health, most likely, and then a strong emphasis on action because Mars is here in the house of health. This could be someone who definitely exercises quite a bit. But, anyways, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that this made sense to you, and I will make additional videos in the future. I just wanted to get started and make a helpful tutorial. I feel like I did a good job teaching you guys everything that's important without adding too much extra fluff that you don't need. So now it's your turn to go and interpret charts. I hope that you continue to use this knowledge because birth charts are a great tool for understanding your life and the patterns that you may encounter. Alright guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in future videos.